1, 2, 3.
Sunday dinners.
Hey, oh, hey.
Sunday dinners.
Hey, oh, hey.
Sunday dinners.
Hey, oh, hey.
Sunday dinners.
Sunday dinners. Because I used to read the other one. Oh, got it. All right. Ready? Okay. 5, 4. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sunday Dinners. This is a podcast for people who have given up on church, but not on God. We are biggity back. And listen, the reason why it's called Sunday Dinners, because you know, maybe on Sundays or maybe even Saturdays for you, and you have lunch or dinner at your house, and after you have conversation, and that conversation just goes anywhere with no boundaries, and sometimes fight happen and break out, and sometimes you know, your man hearts or whatever. This is what this podcast is. And so what I do not want is for you to look for a conclusion. That is not what this podcast is about. It is here to share thoughts, share hearts, meet people where they are over certain topics. And so welcome. To my right here, we have the Mafia Maria. Say hey.
Yeah, it's really people are gonna think.
Okay,
it's
thank
my
you for
official
sharing.
Name now. Okay, it's not my real name.
Who are you?
I am Maria Burlow. I am the associate pastor at UCity.
There you go. And she's Italian. And to my left, we have a very special guest, one of my best friends. We have been friends for...
Be careful, don't age
who's
us.
gonna know
I
that?
know.
Who's gonna know the
We
answer?
have been friends for a very long time. And...
wait,
Huh?
how long? Do you know?
You know what? I don't know the amount of
Oh
years.
my God.
I don't.
And I think if we thought
Kind
about
of
it, we
friendship
would
is
waste
this?
time on this podcast.
Yeah.
So
And
Is it over 10 years?
And it
Oh,
would
we're
probably
over
take
10
the
years.
energy down if we calculated the amount of years.
carry the two.
So yeah, I'm happy to be here after all of these years.
Yeah. And so who is Keith?
Who is Keith? Keith is a life coach with a concentration in strategic intervention. I am not as fancy as she is with the executive pastor role, etc. But
Please, it is
no,
not fancy. We'll have to go.
no, you have to go. You know, and I am a guy that speaks a lot about freedom and authenticity, and I'm Terrell's friend
Yep. For an unforeseen amount of years.
for an unforeseen amount of years. That's
That's
enough.
That's
Who are you?
And that
Okay.
is precisely why he is on this podcast, because he's my friend. And so, no, it is because we are talking about authenticity today. But before we do, you know, we just got to pass it over to Mafia.
Oh, yeah.
Maria, what you got for us?
I will go in a second, but you did not say who you were.
I am, they call me Pastor T around these parts, and I'm the lead pastor of UCity, the church.
Yes. The lead pastor of UCity, the church, where one of our values is vulnerability saves.
Yeah.
And so for two reasons, because Keith has been your friend for 50 years. So we wanted to have him here. And that's what I decided it had to be. And then also because authenticity is a passion of yours.
Authenticity is a passion.
And that is I would call that a sibling of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. So in honor of your 100-year friendship and your passion for authenticity,
We just
I
keep moving
really
the
feel like
bar.
people want to hear an embarrassing thing about Terrell, Keith.
Ooh.
He doesn't have one.
And you can, well, I mean, he should. You've been friends for 200 years.
Yeah, but because we've been friends for so long, it's kind of hard to kind of choose a moment that was so embarrassing, because we've seen a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just...
Nothing feels embarrassing, though.
Okay,
Yeah, and-
or it's something that
It's
no
been
one in our
adventurous.
church context might have here or no. Like, help us out a little.
The ice storm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was literally,
Say ice storm.
I was literally about to say, I remember. Okay, for recording purposes, I'm gonna keep it together and tell this story. He's such a rebel. I don't know what everybody else's experience is with him now. 100 years later, I'll go with your numbers, but it was an ice storm in Charlotte. And at the time, we all lived close to a mall. And so he had the great idea, like, we should go to the mall. Now, I suggested, being the very rigid, responsible guy that I am, I'm like, no, we should definitely walk. Like, we should do. No, like, I can move up the hill. Now, mind you, he doesn't have like some big 4x4 truck that he can just plow through ice. He has like an Acura Integra.
Yeah. Small car.
And you guys were never taught to drive in the weather like the
No.
Like the northern
And I mean,
have
probably
been.
one of the worst ice storms that they have had maybe to date in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Mind you. So he's like, yeah, we should go to the mall. And I'm a fool. I get in the car with him. We're riding up the hill. Now there is an incline that is probably like, yeah, it's crazy. We're riding up the hill, and all of a sudden, I feel the car sliding back down the hill, and it completely turns around in the road, and he's trying to get control. He's trying to get control of the car, and you know how we stopped? The curb stopped us. The curb. We were literally up on the curb with probably like a wheel in the air. It was still just going. And then he was like acting like he was disappointed. Like, oh man, I can't believe this. I'm like, what? Like, are you crazy?
So did you make it? I mean, then is your car just stuck
No? So
there?
we ended up going back to the house and we walked to the mall.
Yes, the original idea that you had.
The original
And
idea.
my car stayed stuck
Oh, I was
like
you left
on the
it there?
curb
Yeah.
until like,
And he just
for the
left
next
it
several
there.
days.
He left it there because we had to leave it until the ice and stuff
ice
melted
was
enough
melted.
for him to drive off the curb.
Yeah, I mean that road was straight ice. I mean like an ice skate ring. And I'm like, nah,
You really
we
thought
good.
you were gonna make it?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all
It's
right.
like, yeah, I just get a.
yeah.
I don't know.
Wait, was the mall open?
The mall was
Yeah,
open.
yeah, the mall was open.
It was Concord Mills.
Mhm.
It was
And
open.
we lived right across the street, like literally.
Yeah.
So walking was like nothing. But that wasn't adventurous enough. I wanted to drive.
That is very hilarious, especially considering we just had our staff retreat a couple weeks ago, and there was a patch of ice that was like, I don't know, 5 inches long. And these two, I'm driving, but I'm from Connecticut. Okay, I was taught, like, when we had ice storms, my dad said, "We're going to the parking lot. You're going to practice doing donuts in the ice storm so that you know how to drive." And these two are freaking out with me driving over 5 inches of ice. Like, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Oh, Ryan, our producer.
Yes,
Ryan's waving from behind the.
Yeah.
Ryan.
And Terrell, they were literally praying out loud. I was like, guys, it's 5 inches of ice. So this, Terrell, doesn't match your story. What happened to that rebellious ice driving man?
It's just I was caring for other people. It was just Keith with me.
I
just
was caring
me.
for other people. I was driving.
Yes, but in my mind, in my body, I was caring for other people. So
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the embarrassing stories that I would never forget in my entire life.
Terrell-
The fear that I had coming down the road, like I was on a roller coaster going straight down.
Not making it in the ice. Next time, Terrell, you got to make it up.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. We give it another shot.
Well, we are all on a journey in life, and Keith, you have shared, and we have definitely experienced it just in the growth of UCity, and also who God has called UCity to care for. Is this the authenticity journey is not necessarily an easy one. So if we can just do a little bit of sharing of individually, like, what has your authenticity journey been like over the past couple of years, just whatever is going on in your life personally?
Yeah, I would say for the past a couple of years, like just being vulnerable off top, like as I think about it, it's probably been like embarrassing of like how much authenticity I felt like I've lost. And and me bringing the concept of vulnerability saves and doing a talk on it and all the things. Like I found myself like this past Saturday in front of Keith. We had a conversation at a coffee shop, and I think I texted you after, and I'm like, man, thank you for listening. But I was like, man, it's like low key even embarrassing of like how far I felt like I've drifted from authenticity. Just because life and my different roles and responsibilities, and so for the past couple of years, that is how my journey been. But I felt like before I was pretty strong in it. No matter really what anybody else did, I was authentic to who I was, simply because I had to be. With the speech impediment, it taught me early on to um, always push for authenticity. I didn't make it a lot of times, but I would say I grew in it earlier than a lot of other people. And so that's my journey.
Wow. Yeah, I think for me, well, I don't think I know. For me, in the last few years, it hasn't, I don't consider it embarrassing, but I know that I've had to really, really lean into the fact that for 36 years, I've only been a fraction of myself. And really kind of getting to an age and stage where I was just trying to figure things out, where it's like, okay, well, what's next for this? And the angst that can come with trying to figure out what I do with my life now, and what, I went from here to there. And I think for me, the aha moment was finding out all of the confusion was connected to my inability to be authentic, because that was where the answers were. Just figuring out that I'm like, yo, if you just be you 100%, that's going to guide you. And if you give yourself the green light to be yourself, that's going to chip away all of the opinions and the expectations of other people, and it's going to make it clear for you what you're supposed to do next. And so it's been a journey. I don't want to use my ability to sum it up with nice words to make it feel like it hadn't been hell, because it has been, because it's been a tough journey. But it's I think that all of that was leading me up to this moment, because I also feel like with that journey, there was a need for me to have evidence. And even where the Bible says we overcome by the word of our testimonies. And my testimony is that it took me 36 years to fully understand the power of being authentic and being myself. But it had to work out that way, not for me, but for other people that will be inspired by the fact that no matter the age, no matter the stage, here is evidence that you too can have that superpower.
Yep. It is a superpower.
And there is a superpower.
Yep.
I want to drill in a second to like what authenticity is, because I think it can mean different things for different people.
For sure.
But while we're doing that, though, also thinking about authenticity within a Christian context, I think it brings all different kinds of can bring different kinds of complications. That's part of my story of authenticity over the past couple of years. I think I became a Christian. I grew up Catholic, and so I knew who God was and I knew what Jesus did, but there was no relationship there. And so when I became a Christian and I began to study scripture and the whole concept of like dying, your old self dies and your new self comes. I think I literally like killed all my humanity, all of it. So many pieces of that were authentically me, I killed with the old self. And so God had to bring me on through a journey of figuring out what pieces of the old self actually need to stay dead versus what parts of myself I was burying. So I would just love to hear a little bit more about like what exactly, like when you're saying authenticity, like what does that mean?
Yeah. And I love what you said about how through that journey you had lost your humanity.
Yes.
And I think that authenticity to me gets into the simple stuff, my personality, who I am, my makeup,
Yeah.
the fact that God didn't just make me to be this duplicate of like, okay, here's the prototype of a human. Y'all are gonna have
conveyor belt.
Exactly, like you're gonna
conveyor belt humanity.
I want to make sure when you go down, and when you go down the conveyor belt and they do the little final look, they just making sure you all have legs and arms and eyes like like a Barbie or something, and hair.
Yeah.
No, it was me looking at how I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My quirks, my personality, my interests. It's that to me is, and me actually, I don't even know if it's something that because of course you're trying to define it, and I'm kind of trying to give more of like, this is what it looks like in action. But it's all of those things considered. I think it's allowing or making space for your humanity. That's what I feel like authenticity is for me. I think authenticity is the truest state of who I am.
Man, that's good. The humanity piece sticks out. And I see it as learning because it's a continued learning, to be the gift that like God has made you
Yes.
to be, and you can take God out and then determine how you will be a gift, right? And that's wrong, right? And then you have picked an authenticity, but it's not yours. But I think it's just learning just to be the gift that God has made you to be to this world, and but firstly to Him, and that is being your like a truest self, and with like navigation, right, and just learning how to be okay with navigation. Like if you are bumping everywhere, bumping from this wall to this height, up to this low, learning, accepting who God has made you to be, and you don't have to be perfect to Him. And so like, and when you learn that you are a gift and accepted, then you become a gift to everybody around you.
Yeah, because they really need you to be yourself.
Yeah,
They need you to be yourself.
And they need you to be
It's a
yourself.
huge gift.
Yeah, with their wonderfully and fearfully made. And I just think oftentimes authenticity comes. Someone says what their authentic self looks like, and they have just picked something that they saw on television or they read, or I think that's good. That's going to be my authentic self, and put that on. But when you add God in it, and patience, and sitting down and listening, and navigating, and taking risk, and learning. Oh, okay, I'm learning that this is my authentic self.
And his desire, like I heard, I think I heard it in counseling for the first time, that like when we're created in God's image, we don't have any bad parts. We just have bad coping mechanisms. And so that was really interesting, because even the word humanity, as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh gosh, like depending on our church baggage or history, like people associate the word humanity or human with sinfulness. Like they're immediately together.
For
but I'm
sure.
like, but God made us like human.
Yeah.
He He regretted it that one time. when he flooded everything. But he told us he wasn't going to do that again.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like sometimes people like, I mean, we were joking about the whole green light thing about what we give ourselves permission to do with a green light. But some people do take that as a liberty.
Sure.
To go off the.
Sure.
Off the.
But even in their liberty, though, like, okay, I'll say here, sometimes, a lot of times your liberty to like take it as a risk is okay. It's like either you don't move or you move, right? And they like take the liberty to, it's like, yeah, no, that didn't work out. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And that one time in college, that wasn't me. And,
I think if we take God with us, though, because you could take liberty for your whole life and not take God with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's probably not going to have the same.
Right. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I like to, I know we talked a little bit about this, living life on my terms. And I think that a lot of times, to your point, depending on especially your church baggage, like that sounds very, very, very off the rocker. It sounds very much so unlike God.
Dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It's gonna make you sin.
And I'm like, for me, God is in those terms. Mm-hmm. And even for me, the word, me taking God with me walking with God, He shows me what to do. But sometimes what I've realized is He's given me so much space in how to do it, how to live that out.
So much space,
And I'm just like, I adopted the fear from other people, and it really wasn't His plan for me. Right. And that's why I love the idea of, I know the thoughts and plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and all that. But what I realized is that the only way for me to live that way, the way He planned for me, was to be authentically me, and to shed all of the other ideas that I had of who that is, and how, and really even to take the liberty that He has given me to figure it out, to make some mistakes, to understand that I have the green light, and He knows how to stop it.
He does.
So would you say that is a trial and error?
For sure. And what I realize is that I deserve that both. I deserve the trial and error, and even to make plain where or how I'm supposed to do this. Because I mean, we can tell story after story, even from our relationship of
another 100 years.
Yeah, from 100 years. 150. See, it keeps growing every 10 minutes. So for the 150 years that we've been connected, it was the trial and error that really, really made our paths clear. And so, yeah.
And I mean, it was the driving. It was the driving a car up a hill on ice that then drilled into me that, man, that is not
to be afraid of all ice for the whole rest of your life.
I know, but that is not, safe, right? Or that isn't
or it just doesn't work.
It's not ideal in an Acura Integra. It's just not ideal.
4-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, a little something.
And those words are dope. I mean, because it's like, it may be ideal for someone else, but it wasn't ideal for an Acura Integra. Right. It may have been ideal for a Ford F-150. But I was in an Acura Integra. So whenever you try to be a Ford F-150, though, in a 94 Acura Integra, you're not being authentic to yourself. And I say that on that journey, what made it most okay, though, right? And I believe like this is how God is with us. was like I was driving that car and Keith was in the passenger seat. Like, let's ride.
Mm-hmm.
Probably had every.
Got
I mean, he
someone
said
with
it.
you.
He said he was very vocal. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Right. This ain't. This
But if
isn't
you're
it.
going,
But,
I'm going.
But
Yeah.
me, I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, cool,
Mm-hmm.
and like he rocked, and that's how we like rocked.
Mm-hmm.
We just, it's like, okay, this is wild, but let's do it. But that him saying I'm down for the ride allowed me to be my authentic
Mm-hmm.
self in that moment without judgment. And now we laugh about it, and it was honestly because it was a thing we laughed right after. Like it wasn't anything
All the way home
Mm-hmm.
because we had to walk home.
That's right.
So it's I think just don't be out here trying to be a Ferrari when you are
Well, it really is a really great analogy.
Hyundai.
Because when you do it with God, even if it is a trial and error, even if it's risky, it really does have this. You're safe with Him.
Yeah.
It's when you have the other people yelling at you on the outside of the car, to try to control you or change your mind or skirt the journey short.
Yeah.
So people mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
God's always got us in it.
Yeah.
And I love the way Michael Todd put it. I can 100% be myself with the caveat that God can change anything that He doesn't like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think with that idea for me, it gave me the green light to go. And even with what he was saying about how, that was the dynamic that we had, I think, well, I'll speak for myself, but I think that was one of the first connections that I had in a friend where it was just kind of like, all right, we can just kind of do stupid stuff and figure it out. But there is room here to do that. Because we were both really heavily involved in our churches and that had family dynamics, where people had plans for us. And I think that they were pretty rigid. We eventually found out, but in this dynamic, it was just kind of like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm rocking with you. He was one of the first people to, well, let me say, not just the first, but the only to walk with me through what was probably one of the most tumultuous seasons I felt like at the time of my life, because here I am going from a stage of my life where I'm a worship pastor and I am responsible for the success of the music in this church. And then I would have a word from God that would say, hey, turn in your resignation. And I'm like, okay, so I'll tell him. Now we both are in similar situations in our churches. And I'm like, hey man, look, this is, and he's like, okay. And how I was looking at him when he said we were going to drive up in some ice, he was kind of looking at me the same way, like, like, this the hill you want to try to tackle? Oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, but I really feel like this is what's supposed to happen. And I remember the closer it got to my time to resign, I remember telling him a story that I think it was crazy, because I'm like, hey man, look, I'm having these feelings and dreams that like something big is gonna happen in January. Like really, I can't explain it. It was in November. I remembered. I think it was in like November, but I'm like, something big is gonna happen in January. And he's like, once again, okay, and it did. And the trajectory of my life changed. But I remember thinking it was like, this is a space that I can just be authentically me. And I could even share something that seems so far-fetched. The idea of it was nuts. But again, yeah, like to his point, we that was a space where I really could be. And what I know now is that authenticity is not just important to me, but it is important to God. Because me allowing myself to be me, even I'll go as far as to say, some of the people who persecuted me or who stoned me when I was making those decisions because they didn't understand were some of the same people that I had that I provoked to give themselves the green light, to follow God in that audacious, crazy, wild way, that it didn't have to be understood, and to really even understand through that authenticity what the faith was that we were talking about, because it was just this idea, but here I am putting it in action. And what I would understand later on is that I would understand two things: what faith in God really is, but also I would build the muscle to be able to sit in the tension of other people's disappointment with my decision to be authentic and to go on a path that God had called me uniquely to.
Yeah, I think what's embarrassing about the what's been embarrassing part of this season, and I mean embarrassing is like I'm okay to be embarrassed, but it is like it is seeing those people's faces when you are like authentic to your decisions, right, and yourself. But I think with that, there was I don't know if you want to share it on here, but I think people need to hear when taking a risk, following your like authentic self, turning in your resignation, and what happened in January. Like I think because that is like all God, right? And so, I mean, you can share how much ever you want. But.
Yeah, and you know what? The exclusive happens here because I've never told this story on record.
Well, Can we do something? Can we cliffhanger that?
Okay.
To start off the next one. But before, so we're going to start off.
All right.
This is going to be part 1.
Okay.
We're going to part 2 with the start of our exclusive interview with Keith Richardson, friend of Pastor Trell Huntley for 250 years. But before we do that, I just want to take a second to embarrass you, hopefully in a good way, Trell, because your gift as a pastor and as a man to walk alongside people like that, to give them space and freedom to have trial and error and stumble through authenticity and give someone the freedom to do that without controlling them and without managing them is why UCity is who it is. That's what people experience in you. That's the gift that you give to people. And so next episode, hopefully you can even share a little bit more specifically why it's been hard for you. But I want you to know that exact story that you tell is why UCity is who we are. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure to leave us a comment and follow us on Instagram at UCity the Church. And hey, if you're around Charlotte, come and visit us. See you next week.